So, hello everyone, myself Komal Kumari, Program Manager at Thought Leaders of India. And with distinct pleasure, I welcome you all to today's event, that is Expert Series Tech Talk Strategies for Digital Leadership. This is an era defined by rapid technological advancement. Staying ahead of the curve is not merely an option, it's a necessity. The landscape of leadership is evolving, demanding new leaders equipped with insights and strategies to navigate the complexities of digital age. We are honored to have a room filled with distinguished visionaries and leaders who have joined us for this transformative exploration. Your presence adds immense value to the collective wisdom we are here to uncover. So, without further ado, I invite Mr. Randeep Bhatia, Associate Partner, Sapphire Human Capital, to welcome you all at this event.
Good morning, and thank you for taking time out and coming for this event. Just a quick introduction in terms of what Sapphire does and what Thought Leaders of India is all about. Sapphire Human Capital is primarily an executive search firm. We've been in the business for 15 years. I've done over 1,500 facilitations across various industries. Over the years, we said, how do we expand and, create thought leadership around various topics and various industries? And that's how Thought Leaders of India was born about 3 years ago. And today, we are very proud to say we've almost got 300 plus members as part of Thought Leaders of India. And this is just one way of us to give back to the society and, try and build thought leadership around various topics. Thank you so much for coming. And, we can start with a quick round of introductions with everybody, if that's okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anjali Iyer, around 20 plus years of experience. Earlier in industry, around 3 years, 14 years in a big four, and last 3 years I'm in IBM. I lead the managed services bit, the entire enterprise applications, that is across SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, and ServiceNow. So I lead that, the managed services bit for India. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mukesh Jain. I'm CTO and VP at Capgemini, leading AI-driven innovation. I'm also looking into people analytics. Been in the industry for 28 years, 13 years at Microsoft, couple of years at Reliance Jio, and now at Capgemini for 5.5 years. Always into AI, large-scale technology deployment and all those. Thank you.
Very good morning to all of you. I'm Dhaval Pandya. I'm the corporate CIO at Piramal Enterprises Limited. We are a conglomerate which is into pharma, financial services, and real estate businesses. As per my background, I'm a core consulting guy, largely about 14 years in consulting, and then work with domain. Right now, I'm the corporate CIO, where among many other things, digital strategy and transformation across the group is something that I'm responsible for. But another important aspect of my role here is driving adoption, benefit realization, and value realization. So how to optimize and get the best value out of the investment made in digital transformation or digital initiatives is something that I drive across the group.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sundeep Agarwal. I am Chartered Accountant and I am partner at Vialto Partners, which is a spin-off company of PricewaterhouseCoopers, where we look after global mobility, people mobility business, where we basically helps the large multinational companies in implementation their global mobility program, looking after their taxation, immigration, relocation, destination services, and payroll services. So been in this field for last 25 years. Started in Singapore, 8 years in Singapore, couple of years in Bangalore, and now last 14 years in Amchi, Mumbai. Looking forward to this session.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Deepak Bhatia. I'm from Quickwork Technologies. We are an integration and automation platform which assists organizations with integrating with their legacy apps, with the new emerging apps, both on the cloud. We operate both on cloud and on-prem, and we integrate with the key systems, core banking systems, CRM, HRMS, SAP. My background is I've been a product management, marketing, and a business guy from different industries, FMCG, insurance, and technology. Worked with Tata Teleservices, Reliance, and Reliance Infocom, and Parley products. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bhavna Prabhakar. I have industry experience of more than 23 years into marketing. So marketing has been my domain so far. Well, today I have come in as an individual capacity, although I've worked with various conglomerates. Just the recent one, which I have taken a conscious decision and I stepped down from general manager marketing for Thermo Fisher Scientific. So I have experience into marketing into pharma, biopharma, life science, healthcare, diagnostic, as well as food. So primarily I have been a marketing into B2B segment. So and today I'm really looking forward to explore this opportunity to connect with all of you and figure out how we all can collaborate and partner towards.
Hi, good morning. My name is Michael Edinburgh. I am from Monalisa group of company. We do chemical, pharma and healthcare equipments. We are also recently diversified into wealth management. I am a hardcore marketing and business development guy, little bit of technical knowledge.
My name is Suhas, Mhaskar. I'm currently the group CTO and CIO at the Octave group, basically into industrial automation. And in this role, I'm looking after IT as well as OT, as well as all the technology that is going on our products, which are basically industrial automation, machines, robotics, and things like that. This is probably my fourth decade of experience. Spent a lot of time with Mahindra Group in the past, been with Pricewaterhouse for a couple of years as consultant. Also been to different countries, and luckily in IT I have worked across the table, round table if you want to say, right from being a programmer, being an implementer, being a sailor, being a buyer of the system, which is the CTO CIO role kind of. So luckily have a 360-degree view of the IT when it comes to background has been supply chain management.
Morning, folks. My name is Prabhakar Shetty, about 3+ decades of experience. Started off first 3 years, I was deputy to Indian Navy, running a large turnkey project where they're replacing IBM mainframes with new age Unix systems. About 8-9 years with Godrej, various roles. Initially, the CAD/CAM, what you hear as geometric, if you're familiar with the industry. That division as part of that R&D and then services. And then it moved to distribution. What you see as Ingram Micro was Genesis was in Godrej. About 3 or 4 years in US, where I was heading professional services for a PLM product company. Came back about 10 years with Satyam, various roles, and I was heading group of consulting businesses around supply chain, manufacturing, ERP, MES, and those kind of things. When 2008, Raju rode the tiger, we started our own company, which got acquired by KPIT. We became part of KPIT for about 4 years. Then a stint with ITC Infotech, where I was running the engineering services, manufacturing and supply chain. About 7 years with L&T, I was a president for L&T Technology Services. Set up what they call as engineering, digital and whatnot. Currently, I'm the chief digital officer for Cyient.
Hi, Venkatadri. I am now the chief commercial officer in Tata Chemicals as a background engineer. MBA, and then of course half my career I was in Hindustan Unilever, been across multiple roles in levers, and then in Tata Chemicals I was heading the business in Rallis, which is a subsidiary of Tata Chemicals, and where in fact from a digital perspective, very happy to say that I was one of those early people to use IT and digital for predicting pest and diseases in agriculture. This is as early as 2015-16. Today, of course, everybody does it, but to give farmers n equal to 1 kind of advisory services. So that was there, and then of course, then I was also digital head for Tata Chemicals. Now I am as head of commercial. I look after all the commercial operations across Tata Chemicals, all locations. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone. And now, with all pleasure, I invite our distinguished speakers, Mr. Dhaval, Corporate CIO at Piramal Enterprises, Mr. Mukesh Jain, CTO at Capgemini, and our moderator, Ms. Anjali Iyer. I request our moderator to start the discussion.
So, the topic that we thought we'll discuss today is digital leadership. Why digital leadership is, I think it's very obvious. Most of us here have been in, most of the time spent in the career in the IT area. It's more looks like earlier it was more of a pull, now it looks more of a push, where everybody is moving towards this direction. there are multiple areas like cloud where everybody wants to go towards it, right? So, why we are talking about this is we understand that technology advancement is directly related to the growth, the economic growth, right? And most of the companies where we are talking, it's more like a accumulation or a collation of technology rather than adoption of technology. When I'm talking about adoption, it really has become a challenge for where I at least discussed with a lot of CIOs, CTOs, digital officers, where it's sometimes becomes a peer pressure. It sometimes becomes the news where all these new technologies are getting adopted in the companies, but there are a lot of challenges with the companies are facing for adopting these technology. When I talk about adoption, it's like a seamless thing which flows in the where the culture is adopting, where the people are adopting, where the processes are in place for that. So that's what we try to focus here. We have our we'll hear from the horse's mouth where we have Dhaval who have good experience across industry, consulting, and obviously Mukesh who is interacting with a lot of clients in across industry where we can see what is it specific to industry or is it across industry that we are seeing this challenge. So obviously what we are seeing nowadays is it's not the big who wins always against the smaller. It's now the fast one who will actually win against the slow. So on that note, I will like to hear the views of Dhaval and Mukesh on this area. So maybe Dhaval, if we can start with you. With the experience that you have, and obviously, as you said, you are taking a lot of initiatives in Piramal and earlier in the digital adoption of it, and you're so is there something like which is driven from a top agenda that happens, or is it something that is it like a top-down thing, or is it like a bottom-up approach that we do in the organization? And how does that start? Is it like a strategy that comes in, or is it like a mandate, or is it something mandatory which comes in? We have to start that. And what challenges do we actually face to start that?
So I think it's not entirely top down or bottom up. It's a mix of both. So there are elements which are top down. So for example, that we need to be more digital savvy is a realization that mostly is across the organization at various levels. But nobody puts a finger on it and says, okay, let's do it now. That's where I think the top down possibly comes in to say that, okay, we may need to invest into what we did for our pharma business. And this is just after I joined. I said that, okay, there is no point in taking knee-jerk reactions and initiatives, doing it on a piecemeal basis, because ultimately for us to be a digitally successful organization, all the pieces have to tie up together. And if they have to tie up together, then they have to be part of a larger story. It cannot be that, okay, let's, for example, do a manufacturing automation somewhere, let's do a back office automation somewhere, let's invest into, say, RPA here and things like those. So things work well when there is a larger vision to it, is what I have seen in my experience. So that's why after I joined, first we invested into saying that, okay, let's put a digital strategy in place. Because very often people want to be the best. You do the benchmarkings and stuff, and you come from consulting, and you would be aware that you look at benchmarks and stuff, but there is always a journey to getting to that benchmark. It cannot be that, okay, now we are at n-10 and all of a sudden we will be at n+10. That doesn't happen overnight. It has to be a journey, and the most important cog in that wheel is people, for example. I think the technology and process can be solved for. People is the biggest piece of the puzzle, because not just within an industry or a domain, but even within an organization, you will have people who are at different levels of maturity as far as appreciation for digital is concerned. And if your efforts are not concerted towards not just driving digital initiatives, but also equipping your people to make the best utilization of what you're putting in place, then that's where that ROI and failures and, we're not meeting the brief kind of things happen. So I think definitely it helps for the strategy and the culture to be driven top down, but the appreciation and adoption definitely has to be bottoms up.
Thanks, Dhaval. I think that's a good start. So, Mukesh, you have been working across multiple clients, I guess, and as Dhaval touched upon the people aspect. obviously companies after implementing, and a lot of companies after failing also, they realize that it is not about, initially the thought was its entire transformation is IT, but they realize that it is not only about IT, it's the entire company as such, where the entire business has to be across the divisions, has to be involved in it. So is there, have you seen like in somewhere where, how do you see in the industry, how it is driven by? Is it driven by the CXOs, CIOs, CDOs, or is it involved by the departments? How, in which areas have you find it successful more actually?
So my view is, I've been with Capgemini for 5.5 years now, and talking to multiple clients, and several CXOs have expressed this concern that top layer is the one which is the biggest challenge now. Probably because they don't know what all things can be done. The learning at that level have comparatively stopped. Right? I've been running a program called digital literacy. I'm doing a lot of workshop for our client and everything. Only their CXO, the top leader, into digital literacy. When I say literacy, people might get offended also because, hey, are you saying we are illiterate? And technically, yes, right? But look at it right now with so much of things. We have kids learning data science, we have kids learning AI and everything up to a certain level. But after that, there's a vacuum. That vacuum is what is preventing a lot of this thing happening. So the CEO coming and telling me, Mukesh, I want my team to, because I don't get into projects normally because I'm a CTO. I mostly get into innovation kind of thing, talking to the client, exciting them, doing 1 or 2 POC, handing over to the Capgemini team, and then coming out of it so that they can deliver it. So when clients say, you know what, can you just have a workshop with our team? Recently I was in New York, 2 days workshop just with the leadership team, just getting them excited about digital literacy, come out of it, and 10 projects come out of it immediately after that, right? Those things. I think that is the main part. The awareness is limited. Second, we are too focused on the existing tools. Okay, should we use this tool or should we use that tool? Right? Very few companies have started thinking about, we can have an innovation program within the company. I'm not saying we should always build. I might be a little biased or building everything, but they understand, don't build it, but at least have the innovation, do a POC with a couple of them before you decide whether you want to go through with this and that. And the third one, like all about hybrid cloud, right? Like why? People think, I want to have, spread my eggs into multiple baskets. So how does it matter? If one of the cloud goes down, first of all, the cloud doesn't go down. If one of the cloud goes down, you're anyway crippled, right? But you're saying, I'll put half on AWS, then some on GCP, some on Azure and all. Doesn't work that way. So I think those wrong strategy or wrong approach is making them a lot more challenging. And last but not the least, like when McKinsey publishes the report, which is 40 to 70% gain because of generative AI. Prove it. I'm asking McKinsey to prove it. So it's not easy. It's easy to say, right? It's not. So I think that's where the CXO said, 40 to 70. Okay, now they put pressure, unnecessary pressure to the other people in the chain that, get this gains. And then the pressure comes to consulting company like Capgemini, other companies. You know what? 40% McKinsey is telling you, at least give it 20% gains. Not possible like that. Not that easy. But I think that's what the challenge is. That's what is taking more time. And people are right now, I would say, a lot more frustrated right now. And what to do and all that, like very like crazy, stressed out in the last 1 year, 1.5 years, I would say, because of all this.
Do you actually see it more relevant to some industry? We have more representative from the pharma and the health science and IT here. Is it right to say that it is more relevant for some industry and less for others?
See, my experience is the standard companies and all, those are standard business which is coming up, BFSI and all standard one. But I'm seeing more and more requests coming from manufacturing and pharma right now because they are now realizing that I think it's possible to get some of these achievements in the digital part of it, and they are coming in. So this is good, and that's what the next big thing is. I was at a college yesterday in Coimbatore, and I was telling, and there's very few people come from mechanical. I said that's the mistake we are doing. The big demand will be in mechanical and biopharma and everything. There'll be big demand, and then if everybody goes into IT, then who will run? The code knowledge will be missing. If Tesla is coming, Tesla is not going to hire all computer engineers. They're going to hire mechanical engineers who have some digital knowledge. I think those people have to understand this one. That's what I'm thinking. I think the frustration is around that. But then these are some of the industry which are seeing a uptick. Even in our Capgemini report also last quarter, we published the same thing, that where we are seeing uptick in this industry. BFS are all standard, IT is standard, maybe they'll go down a little bit, but other industries are coming up.
Right.
I want to share something on that. This is biotechnology. A lot of colleges, they are closing down biotechnology.
Yes.
Because all these IT guys and computers, they are taking over all these things. And they are trying to enter this field because biotechnology doesn't have much future. As per, because why I'm saying is my wife is in educational engineering college.
Okay.
And we get all the inputs. Mechanical engineering, right? First for Tesla factory. Along with that, biotechnology doesn't see much future with it.
I think we are not fusing first much future as of today, right? But as more and more companies are thinking about getting into biotech, pharma, and everything, I think that's where the big, because they have not used technology as much yet. If you think really this,
yeah. Coming back to this electronics and computer department, electronics and electrical engineering department, that was not having a big future in that particular thing. You know? Now that future is slowly coming up because of the semiconductor industry.
Yes,
the demand is going up a little bit.
Yes. And that's what I'm saying. Now, see, by the time the demand starts, then people start realizing it. It will take another 4 to 5 years for people to realize and then start investing in education again.
Yeah, that's I'm asking because
but that's period right now.
Particular full branch is being closed down.
That's sad. That's sad.
That's sad. That's the reason I'm just trying to interpret.
Yeah. So I'm advisor to a couple of institutions, and I keep encouraging them. Please don't shut down. Run it for some more time. But if students are not coming, what they can do?
But the management wants the ROA, no?
Of course. I understand.
They want the profit. How can they run with 60 seats capacity? How they can run 10 people students in It's not possible. So they diversify into AI, data science and all. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I think
I thought. But how do you see over the next 4-5 years the entire curve working out for biotech? In the sense from the university perspective, how do you generate interest among students who take biotech?
There will be, I would say, because of the vacuum will be realized only in a few years probably, 1 year and 2 years, and then there will be short 6 months immersive course. Demand will go like what we see in Upgrade, right? Huge demand, so we do part-time course and get it done. Like that, it will come here. 6 months biotech focus course and get yourself biotech diploma and then start working on those, and then the thing will come. Like for example, Upgrade has been there for 9 years, right? But the BTech in data science have just started 3 years back. The first batch is going to come out next year. BTech in data science. Okay. Now that's what will happen. Some short-term course will come, then people will go back to university, and then the full 4-year degree will come again. Maybe there will be innovation in the curriculum as well. Some of the things we are talking about now, right? Again, some of them could be fantasy as well, right? Chips, right? In the medicine itself, right? There could be some thing which can continue to stimulate in our body some of this hormones and all for quite long time. Those are the things which are the next future thing, AI-based things. Simulator, something which will control the diabetes, sugar, and accordingly releasing insulin on need basis. A lot of those things will be the next one. So biotech will be taking a lot more bigger wing, which may not even be thought about.
Actually, we are at a very nascent stage here in biotech. Yes.
So Dhaval, so there's in the boardroom there is chairs near the table and the chairs near the wall, where near the table it's more like a what type of people, and earlier I just wanted to understand the role of CIOs, how it is changing because of this digital, more influx of digital over the last 10-20 years. Is it like expectations from the CEO, is it also changing, where we say earlier it was more like how do we, okay, this is the strategy, okay, now we have to perform A, B, C, D to get things done. And now is it more like the expectation where for the what area also the CIOs are expecting, the CEOs are expecting the inputs from CIO, okay, what strategies to be defined, also inputs from the CIO or CIO, CDO, I'm just taking the overall picture here. Because of this transformational change or the influx of digital, is there some role change also that is that you think is there a change over the last 7-8 years or 10 years?
So maybe not 7-8 years, but definitely post-COVID is what I would say, that there is a big change in the way the conversations with the CIOs and CDOs used to happen. Because let's be fair, CDO is also a relatively new thing. That people realize that digital needs a separate focus and a separate tower in the organization. And honestly, still there are a lot many companies that don't have a separate dedicated CDO kind of a role, right? So, but post-COVID, what people realize is that there are different ways of doing business also. The conventional distribution and the physical stores is not the only way things can work. There are other means and they are profitable as well. So that's where I think, yes, the questions from just being a mandate, or that okay, we have decided this and you go ahead and execute this, and then in the next meeting you only are providing an update as to where you are from what got decided. Now the conversations are changing as to how can you contribute to the top line. There are companies today, I know for a fact, in decor and paints, which have a clear KRA and a clear revenue target purely on account of technology. This is purely business generated by technology, nothing to do with people who deal with the customers and the key account managers and the relationship holders. And no, this is purely, it is still consumer oriented largely, because B2B it will take time. I don't see it happening very soon, because B2B is a very relationship oriented business. It's a low volume, high value kind of a thing. Whereas B2C is where you are running practically on wafer thin margins, and there every bit of optimization is welcome, because it straight away helps you, better the bottom line. At the same time, it also somewhere helps you concentrate your efforts on opportunities which are more likely to converge, rather than so your failure rate technically is so much lower. So yes, this is the business aspect of it, and then there is an ever-hanging sword of cybersecurity, right? So no boardroom discussion today is complete without the CIO being, or the CISO being asked, what are we doing in cybersecurity? And if that weren't enough, then Gen AI has made its way, right? So the XYZ company, the director will come and say, XYZ company is doing so much in Gen AI. What are you guys doing in Gen AI, right? So it's become more of a fashion word, yeah, to say that okay, we are also doing doing something in Gen AI and stuff. But yes, coming back to his point earlier, where he was talking about the literacy at the topmost levels. Now that literacy is definitely improving, is what I would say, and that is then percolating into the technology and the digital aspects of the organization.
So you touched earlier about with the people aspect also. Definitely, it's the most important aspect. So 2-3 points there. How do we cope up with considering a lot of Indian organizations, let's say ownership-driven organizations, where a lot of at a leadership level or the mid-tier level, there are people with like 15, 20 years experience. It's very difficult for them to change. Also, adopting new technologies, companies are getting into reskilling, upskilling, all those type of skills. Somewhere it becomes really difficult to, because it's really a challenge for me when I'm working with so many organizations. Getting this change management, it mostly works on paper. Getting it on ground really becomes difficult. That's one part. How do you deal with digitization, adoption, and these type of organizations? And and is the reskilling, upskilling, all these things, does it really work in your experience?
No, so it definitely works. The results may be different from what you expected, but definitely it works. And to address as to how do you, the people aspect which you just spoke about, and which Mukesh also spoke about digital literacy programs and stuff, right? So as a part of my mandate, I run the digital transformation office at the group. And there are two more important levers compared to just the benefit realization, which I also work upon, and I have dedicated people running this, is the capability building and the organizational change management. So my experience has been that on a 100-point scale for a success of a digital transformation program, possibly 20% would be technology, 30% would be processes, and remaining 50% is people. If you look at it, and more often than not, where people make the mistake is they look at it the other way around, exactly the other way around. They look at it 50% being technology, 30% being processes, and 20% being people. So you somewhere knowingly, unknowingly neglect the most important lever of success. So to cater to that, there are different things that we do. One thing that we do as a part of capability building is that we look at people in cohorts. Say for a given initiative to succeed, who are your key stakeholders? And largely we try to place them in 3 buckets. One would be the senior leadership, the other would be the middle management, and the third would be the people who would execute the technology. And then for the initiative, and not just initiative, but even as a part of the larger digital program where there are skills which are agnostic of the digital initiative that you're talking about, we try to identify certain skill sets or skill journeys which will be meaningful for these 3 cohorts. So for example, what we did for the senior leadership recently was that we took them to the innovation labs of one of the most technically advanced OEMs across the globe. Can't name them, but yeah. And they have something called as a innovation lab, where they are working on technology which will possibly get utilized 5 to 7 years from today. They have thought leaders and they have industry and domain experts who are somewhere guiding to say that where does the value lie. Uh, Very cool niche kind of technology, and just if you take your management over there or senior leadership over there, it will just open their eyes and ears to say that okay, this is also a possibility. Rather than saying कि boss ये तो ऐसे ही चलता है, ये तो ऐसे ही करता है, right? So, and once they have seen that, maybe the degree of appreciation may differ, but definitely there is a delta when they walk out from there, and then they take that delta back to the workplace. And then they have those conversations with the middle management over there to say that, okay, we've been here, this is what people are working on, XYZ has also adopted this, what can we do, or, what can we look at this in a different manner. Then the second layer realizes that, okay, I have my management's buy-in in this. So it makes sense to put my effort in that direction. Whether it will succeed or not is a second story, but I'm not trying to focus on something which is not getting appreciated. So then the second level kicks into action, and then they identify 2 or 3 options to say that, okay, these are possibly the ones that will work. Maybe you bases a cost benefit analysis or, a degree of success kind of a projection, you choose 1 or 2, do a couple of POCs, and then the third layer kicks in. And the third layer is actually the one that actually drives that adoption. And there the capability required is basically to run that or adopt that digital technology. So that's where skill based or technology or very program oriented learning journeys will come into picture. Yeah.
I think that's a good slow change management. That's an example of that. So, Mukesh, actually, Dhaval also touched upon one point on information, okay, data and information. So, one risk maybe in the earlier times when digitization and when we talked about data is a very, very core element of it. That's what we see. And with all these initiatives, that what I see is accumulation of data centrally is something which is happening. Earlier, it's more dependent on the people or with varied systems and all. And with all these new things like data lake or repository and all, where the accumulation of data across is happening. Does it somewhere more increases the risk, as he talked about cyber, one of them, but information leakage and all, does it make the organization more prone to the risk here?
So I would say the risk is probably the same, or in fact, it would comparatively reduce, because when this data was available in 10 different systems, the access level were different, and who was managing, who was monitoring it. So the high chance of leakage from those small systems compared to a big one. Now, when you have everything at one place, right, the whole governance is put in place, everything is audited, who have access, who don't have access regularly. I think that's much better. Second, it's not just the data, it's the data model. If the data model is created, only then we have the value for data. Because otherwise people say, oh, give me raw data, I'll do it for you. No, we don't want to do so. After I took over this people analytics role as well, so I've stopped any Excel download whatsoever. If you want, the data model is there. You have your Power BI developer if you want to do it, but rather use the standard templates. Only after you use it and you say, you 2 things are missing, we'll probably show you how to do it. So we are able to get more insights from all the data. And we are talking about people analytics data, people data, highly sensitive data ever, right? And those things. But then with data model is better, right? And then, but having that governance about who is having access, the access management part, control. If I cannot just say, hey, give access to anybody. Somebody has to audit, somebody has to monitor. That part is there. And last point, right? The data, when it is flowing through, right, in Excel files and everything, that is the biggest risk, right? And how do we stop that risk in 2 times? One of them, the data may not be relevant or they may not be current. And second one, if it goes into wrong hands, right? So both the things has to be stopped. So that's why preventing anybody to have direct access only through API, access only through Power BI, maybe that is the solution we need to get over. Of course, I'm using Power BI with the example because at Capgemini we're using Power BI, but it could be Tableau, it could be Looker, it could be Quicksand, anything it could be.
Right. Dhaval, you want to put some thoughts around it? The risk of data accumulation, because that's what this was highlighted by one of the major automobile company to me, and also one of the major biotech company also, where they're saying, okay, nowadays I'm dependent on ABCD for getting A data, B data. I know nothing. It's like it will not come because it's not even there. It's somewhere in the mind and somewhere in the system, somewhere in the paper. Everything cannot go out suddenly. That risk cannot exist only earlier. But now that risk is something which is new, which has come in, and now we have to put. We have only created that risk, and now we have to manage that risk. So yeah.
So it's a fine balance actually. You cannot take an extreme stand over it, because if you want to be very data protective focused, and there is nothing to say that by not doing this you will remain like he said, right, that you will be able to do that, and at the same time saying that completely democratizing data. You cannot be at the extremes, obviously. What is important to realize is that, number one, what is the data which can be democratized? There has to be a good thought that has to go into it, and that's where aspects of data value and data classification come into picture. And the second aspect is that who actually needs that data? You need to be very, very careful about that. So access should not be by default, it should be by design. And then what happens. Then you'll have to basically, there will be some delta that you will need to do as you go through the journey and realize that, there is a hole to be plugged here, there's a hole to be plugged there, and you plug that hole. But to use it as an excuse to not embark upon that journey will possibly push you back in the data excellence journey from where you want to be. You will continue, and data is today fueling everything. So if you don't have a good data strategy in place, then possibly your digital transformation is also going for a toss. Your complete value realization will, because you put in the best systems for analytics, and then somebody comes and challenges the data. It's like saying that you invested in a Ferrari and now you don't have a road to run it on. So it's like that. So definitely there again has to be a strategy around it. For example, people today don't follow or don't invest enough into the basic principles of master data governance. Many people today, if you walk into a room of CIOs and say that, okay, are you fully aware of where all your data lies today? It's a very difficult question to answer in all honesty, because we've not reached here only today. There has been a journey from where you started. People will have a mix of application landscape in terms of, there will be legacy systems, there will be COTS products, and there will be new age or modern products also. So it will be unfair to compare a digital first application with a legacy application, because it's seen a very different journey. But it's important to take cognizance of the fact that yes, there is such an application, and if there are not enough safeguards put in place, first put the safeguards in place, put the SOPs in place, put the governance principles in place, and then you embark upon the data democratization journey.
Having talked about all these things, data and generative AI also that you touched upon, the new fad, is it because I think 7-8 years back when I was talking to a major CIO in the automobile company, he was like, I have an RPA budget of XX lakhs and somehow do something about it. So is it like a pressure of adopting this new technologies where we have to do something, whether we find some maybe use case or not, but just do something because we get a tick sometimes, yeah.
That's what I said. Your senior leadership today is more aware than it used to be, right? So, there is some board of director that is whispering into your CEO's ears. Yeah. Oh, my company is doing so much in RPA, my company is. So back in consulting, and this was early days for IoT, I had one of my, and I was on the other side of the table then, and I had one of my customers walking up to me and saying that, yaar, humko IoT karna hai. I said, boss, what do you mean IoT karna hai? It's not something that you wake up one day and start doing, right? So, yes, there is an aspect of fashion statement around it, like Jain AI today, and well, people do talk about getting benefits from Jain AI, like he spoke about a study also, and having done hundreds of use cases in Jain AI, right? You need to put a good, prudent thought to say that, okay, number one, is it really giving you the benefit that you are claiming? And if it is, then can you prove it? Number one. Number two, there is a difference between traditional AI and Gen AI. And it's very wrong to use the term loosely to say Gen AI has generative capabilities. Traditional AI can give you purpose-built AI-based results. So are you deriving the benefits from purpose-based AI, or are you deriving the generate from a content-driven AI capability? There are JDs floating in the market saving 5 to 7 years in Gen AI. The technology is not that old, right? How do you expect people to? And the best part is that, the moment Gen AI hit hit the bloom, you have all partners coming and saying that, oh, we have been doing this since 10 years, 15 years. People are only talking it about what stopped you from talking about it 10, 15 years back if you were doing that, right? So, yes, you have to take some things with a pinch of a salt. But disregarding it is definitely not the solution. Because if you disregard it, then somewhere you will fail to get. My personal opinion: this technology is here to stay. Unlike some maybe 3-4 years back, or maybe about 5, blockchain was the world will change with blockchain, and today you hardly see people adopting blockchain, right? Nothing against the technology. Big data still has seen some light, right? But blockchain, you will see very. I don't think apart from the Ministry of Disaster Recovery and people like those, anybody is investing heavily. There was a huge investment made into Pharma Ledger, where there was a consortium built of all the pharmaceutical organizations to say that how can blockchain change the way you look at the regulatory and the supply chain aspects of a pharmaceutical business. It's not even heard of now what's happening. I'm not even sure whether that consortium still exists or it doesn't. So, devoid of that, I think this technology is here to stay. There is, at least in my personal opinion, there is a real benefit of it, and we are only scratching the surface for sure. But the speed with which the technology is evolving, definitely the risks are evolving at a 2x speed with regards to that. For example, you talk about dark GPT today, right? You talk about AI being used to effect ransomware attacks. AI being used to penetrate into your organizations and systems, right? So technology is technology, right? If you have a piece of explosive, you decide how you have to use it. So, but this technology is here to stay, and the sooner we start at least looking at it, the faster the benefit that we'll get out of it.
Just to add here, right? So definitely, Jain is more of a fashion statement. Every few days, you see some company will announce we have this many people trained and everything and all, but not a single company saying we have achieved this much benefit. Nobody going to share. As soon as somebody will share that number, client will say, okay, now give me 10% discount. Give me 10% discount. Definitely that will not happen. I think that part is here to stay. But more important, right? Generative AI use cases, even though it's been there for almost 1.5 years now, generative AI, but very few people are even talking about the real use cases. Yes, some area we can see some no, that's a hype curve we are on right now, right? Some innovation people will, some deep fake people will create and show it to us, some content creation and all. But that's about it, right? But I think the real usage will come as more people get trained, more people know how to use it, more people know. It's not about prompt engineering, like people made good money out of just calling prompt engineering and doing it. But it's more about, do you have a structure in place? For example, any company for that matter, if they want to allow people to use Gen AI, are they just going to allow people to use whatever they want? No, you need to have a structure in place. You need to have governance in place. You need to have abstraction layer in place, so that a lot of these things can retain, your own data can retain in the company. So Capgemini, we created a system for ourselves. Now for the client, we are now using it. There's an abstraction layer. You can talk to any of the backend Jain AI. It could be OpenAI, it could be Bard, it could be any of those. But internally, you have one interface. So everything is governed and monitored. Otherwise, you keep doing some complex prompt and your bill comes to $10,000 per month. What's the point there? I think those are the things which people have to, people are not realizing that. But yes, the CEO and everyone say, okay, fine, I want these many people train him. That's it.
Most of the use cases of generative AI as automation and RPA use cases only, and it is shown as. So yeah, that's thanks.
The previous question that you had, which you are asking the Dhaval. So I was fortunate to work under Mr. Mahindra, one of the very tech savvy leaders. He used to travel a lot. After every travel, he used to come back and say, Suhas, I saw this, can we adopt this in our company? And typically go back to, like 2010, 2014 kind of period, the new technologies were kind of coming up. And then, we had to then study and tell him and go back to know what will work in our company, what will not work in our company. So slowly what we started doing, we used to get his calendar as to where is he traveling, which companies he's traveling.
What is coming to you now?
We started, figuring out through our networks as to, what's going to come in and be prepared to answer him the moment, Obviously, we did certain things, we ruled out certain things, and he respected us. I mean, to an extent that, he respected that this team is going and taking efforts to figure out, what will work and what will not work. So that pressure will always come from the top management. And at that level they are meeting, mingling. Somebody says, I did this in Gen AI. Neither that guy knows, neither this guy knows. With due respect to my senior leaders, but the pressure comes in. And then sometime back you mentioned, right? Is there a tick mark? Many people take that as a tick mark because my boss asked me, I have to show it.
Yeah.
And then they will probably come to IBM, Capgemini, sometimes to our IT wing also saying, "Arey, humne kuch karna hai." No, help us to do some POC kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, but the only thing
Obviously, Mr. Mahindra must have understood the benefit out of it, somewhere seen the benefit. So he is coming and saying, okay, why not we use it? So in organizations, right?
So just to complete that, actually, it's not a complete fad. Okay, for example, the government has realized benefit out of investing in Gen AI, and it will continue to do so. For example, if you heard of Bhashini, right? It's a platform which is based on Gen AI, which helps the farmer with understanding, what kind of benefits they are eligible for, and it's a multilingual platform again. Similarly, there are companies which have invested into voice responses, which are Gen AI driven, and they have seen a significant drop in the number of calls that a real human had to take, which also means that a lot of calls are getting sorted at that level in a acceptable manner by the customer. It's not that customer is asking talk time and he's talking about something else altogether. So there are real benefits, but like he rightly said, you need to be careful about the use cases that you are choosing. For example, people talk about Gen AI in manufacturing. I have my questions over it, really. When I say manufacturing, I'm talking about shop floor. What kind of benefits will Gen AI be able to give you on a shop floor? Now, if you're talking about smart goggles, okay, smart goggles is not a Gen AI tech. It's again a traditional purpose-built AI tech. So that's where it lies.
It's more of the right use cases. Maybe the technology is there. How you identify and implement that's the key. And one more thing with all the new technologies is the how the benefit are we able to showcase to the maybe end user or customers where you are adopting this technology somewhere like Suhas give an example where the benefit was seen, but a lot of technologies we put in the it's like if it is a top down approach, we put in the organization, the inside employees, the customers are not able to visualize the benefit, and it's like, okay, for doing purpose we are doing it. Is the organizations focusing on actually showcasing the benefits and doing that entire change management to say that, okay, now this, it's not only the new, suddenly one day you're doing the new technology, you're performing, it's the entire culture or the way of working itself getting changed. So are we actually focusing on that area when we are getting into the digital strategy as you said?
So we are, and I'm sure other organizations too are. But for a fact, it is very difficult to establish the benefit of some of the new age technologies upfront. You have to do POCs, and even after doing POCs, when you scale them out, you have to realize that there will be a tipping point before which you will not get the benefit. For example, people talk about RPA. Now, an RPA can process 100 invoices also, RPA can process 1 lakh invoices also. The bot cost remains the same. Now, when you're processing 100 invoices, if you compare the cost of a bot, then definitely you will feel that somebody being paid about 25 to 30,000 a month is far more cost effective compared to a bot working on on a subscription basis. But the moment you're talking about 1 lakh invoices, you're talking about 1,000 times scale, then the same bot is processing that. And what you also need to realize is that with a bot, the level of accuracy is far higher. The chances of error are far lower. So, for example, what is it going to cost you to process a duplicate invoice? ठीक है, मैंने अगर 9 लाख का bot डाला and if it is helping me to save a 10 crore का invoice, definitely it is worth the ROI. So you have to look at ROI in a very different sense. You cannot be completely saying that ROI में मेरा numerator revenue ही होना चाहिए. You will have to look at the other aspects also. For example, the accuracy, the speed of response, the engagement level, the experience that you are providing. What is the cost of giving the customer the right information the first time vis-a-vis a human meddling around it? We are happy to serve you, and he's already frustrated on the other side using the best of the words, and you're happy to serve you, and then you engage about for the first 5 minutes collecting all his information which you should have had about 5 years back, and then at the end of it you say that, okay, why don't you mail it to our backend department and say that, and they will respond to you within 72 hours, when you already know that no response is coming in 72 hours, vis-a-vis a bot getting the right information, sharing it then and there and closing it. How do you put a value to this benefit? It's very difficult, right? You have to consider a myriad number of factors. You will have to look at data which scales about 3 to 5 years, identify the level of accuracy, the level of engagement, and then compare it and translate it. It's very, very difficult. So if you have to do innovate, at some point in time you have to soft pedal as far as benefit is concerned, but you have to be clear as to how do you define success or benefit. While you may not be able to measure it very clearly, a definition of what success means for this particular initiative has to be understood and agreed across the board.
So with due respect to my finance colleagues and this team, the ROI basically comes from the financing. Especially when the previous CIOs were reporting to CFOs. ROI was the thing. You will not be able to sell any project to the organization unless solid ROI is being shown. And in manufacturing companies, especially what happens is manufacturing companies invest in the resources only when ROI equation is right. And that's true about manufacturing machines or even some of the resources or the supply chain things that you need. As Dhaval rightly said, when you are looking at new technology or new innovation, ROI, something very, I won't say ROI will not be there. It's a very fuzzy thing. Sometimes you will have to figure out, the intangible benefits which are going to flow for your organization. Sometimes you have to figure out that if you don't go for that, you might get wiped out of the business over a period of time. And that needs visualization, which unfortunately is the territory of CEOs. The good part is the moment now CIOs and CTOs have started directly working with CEOs, I think the ROI thing is slightly dropping down. I mean, it's there at the back end somewhere because the budgeting processes have to change in most of the larger organizations. So it remains. We have to show some kind of ROI. But now there are ways to, paddle around it and compare it with
No, I think just to add to what he's saying, it's very relevant. I think ROI at the senior management level has to be the customer experience. I mean, end of the day, all these things, whatever process changes or tools, what we are adding is to enhance our customer experience. If that is something which we're able to do, obviously the revenue generation would automatically come in. That is going to be an outcome. So every function can have a functional ROI, but at the top level, the ROI has to be enhancing the customer experience. So
some of the ROI calculation, right? So probably it doesn't have to be done right day one, right? Having some small budget for innovation and all. That's what I do. Right? I run an innovation program at Capgemini called Millennial Garage. And over there, no budget, nobody will ask how much you. I mean, a small amount I'll have for the whole year to spend, right? The whole purpose is do some innovation. Okay, after 10 innovation, 3 of them will see the day of the light, and after that, 1 of them will be implemented. That's fine. Then the ROI calculation will come. But then at least doing this part, otherwise we will never understand what innovation could have possibly be done. So keeping the cost low on POC, doing some innovation, just quick wins, and showcase those part. Like as soon as the Jain AI was done, right? So my team went overboard, and then within 3 months we were able to get 32 working use cases. Okay, 20 of them were scrapped immediately. No client will like it. 10 of them, 12 of them went ahead and all. But then still we continue to innovate. But the main part is when you go to client will say, yes, you are innovative. You are coming up with ideas. Rather than, it's very easy for any of the consulting company like ours, right? Client will say, can you do ABCD? Our answer will be, Hoy Maharaja, in Marathi. In English, yes, we will do it. Right? That's the answer. But then, more than that, if it's a client, you are saying 1, 2, 3, definitely we'll do it. But there is only 4, 5, 6 that's possible. I just want to let you know. And that's what probably, even though I never did sales in my life, but as a CTO, I do a lot of this kind of sales, right? Then I go and client and say, this is also possibility. And that is the part we can only get when we invest in some innovation. So all this new technology and everything, it has, I would say, zero value by saying, I have 1 lakh people trained. So what? But I have 4 solutions created for you. That is more value, I would say.
yeah, there will be a lot of intangible benefits, as you said.
See, what needs to be understood, and especially at senior management level, is that by forcing ROI, you are somewhere constraining the thinking, which is completely counterintuitive to the purpose of innovation, which is unconstrained. And I know organizations today who have something like what Suhas was also mentioning and Mukesh mentioned, they have something called as a failure budget. It's not called an innovation budget. It's called a failure budget, which means that this money, you are okay to go ahead and blow and burn it and nobody will ask you where a dime went, right?
Interesting.
So it needs a different level of thinking. Like I said, it is always the process and technology are always the smaller parts. It's always the people and people in different facets, not just from a digital adopter's perspective, but also from the thinking and from a culture perspective, especially. So if I go and tell my organization today I need a failure budget, it will sound very, very different to them. But there are organizations who have adopted this.
So
We did this about 15 years back. I was leading the innovation. It was a very interesting part because mobiles and tablets have not become mainstream at that point of time. And we created a lot of apps on our own, which could be used at our dealerships, could be used at our, service stations and all of that. And everybody's laughed at us. Saying, people are using paper, so as do you really think we are going to give this expensive device which used to cost something like 40,000-50,000 a tablet, at that point of time. But today, you see, it has become a mainstream.
right.
Somebody would have asked me to go Arwa in 2010.
That would have been right.
But somebody has to begin. And as he rightly said, failure. Another interesting part because Sapphire is here, HR folks. So taking care of my career was very simple. As a head of innovation, I'm going to have this failure budget. I'm going to look at those many technologies. Fine. Challenge was for my folks below me. But everybody else was working on SAP or any other things where they were being rewarded for success. And my guys are being rewarded for failure. And HR could never die. And again, I'm saying 2010.
And that's
people have understood failure as a budget.
And it's interesting why, because it's the same CEO when a marketing guy will come and say, okay, let's try this product. He's ready to give those funds.
Because you're getting revenue.
No, it is for a fact. It is for a fact. I'm sorry, sir. You are in a very different percentile of businesses in that case.
No, but I'll completely agree. Marketing is revenue in. So
That is the reason. That is actually the reason that it is seen as a revenue generating function, whereas traditionally IT and now digital was always seen as a cost center.
now that perception is
I was
also.
leading the CEO, was never a marketing guy. He's a pure technical guy. He tell boy, kya kar raha hai?
How many organizations would you have like that? How many organizations?
Which I work. I don't know about these.
That's what I'm telling you, that you are on the wrong side of the stick in that case.
Marketing people do have the same pain area.
So 15 years in consulting, and I have seen this. I am talking from my experience. Let me put it that way.
I did masters of marketing management from Bellinger. I found it very difficult to work with CEOs. So I went and did my master's in financial management from NM to counter it.
So I am masters in marketing management from Jamnalal Bajaj.
I could counter it. For NM I did.
I don't have MBA marketing. I don't have it, but I go and teach in Bellinger.
Okay. Last question from my side. Okay. So we struggle for technology adoption and digital leadership at organizations. What about at home? Is it we leading it or our kids where it's more from adoption to addiction? So what is the take on that?
No, you talk about generation gap, right? And it's there to see. The way my kid uses the mobile or a tab, it's like he was born with the tab. And nobody's taught him that. He can't speak, but he knows that there is a voice search available on YouTube. And he tries his way to, look for rhymes and things like those. So there are two things. One is that I think natural progression, it is expected that 3 generations later, the generation will be 3x smarter than the generations 3 years back. That's a rule of thumb that human evolution has followed. And I think they're born in an era where, so if you tell them that you fill a form today, if you tell the so-called millennials or Gen Z now, right, fill a form, they'll smirk at you. You tell them that there was actually a time when there was no mobile. What are you talking? You're talking about Stone Age or things like those. And if you tell them that, there was a time when you actually had to pay to make an outgoing call, they'll say, we only pay for data.
Incoming call.
Yeah, incoming also actually, yes, when we started. So, yes, so that's why I think entrepreneurs around the world have also realized this, and that's where they are investing into things like coding for kids in 5th, 6th, 7th grade, right? Because they understand that this generation can absorb that. possibly it may not have been something that we could have done. And also, to be fair, the tools are fast simpler. You have things like low code, no code. Today, we don't really have to be a technology expert unless and until you are developing a very, very complex product. You can get your ways around with such technology platforms for most enterprise use cases, especially workflows and stuff, right? You don't have to really know coding today. And if coding is something that you need, then now you have something called co-pilots, right? Which works on the best of IDs and development platforms that you have today. So I think they definitely lead the way in terms of how technology can be used. No doubt about that. And it is only going to get sharper from here, from where it is today. Right. Very soon we'll be obsolete. It's only a matter of time. Yeah, if we already aren't. So yeah, definitely. And it's the complete culture. So today at schools they use tabs for education. I don't know. I remember the time when we used to have one day in a week which was for computer lab, and we used to look forward to it because it used to be 30 minutes, 20 minutes. You had to do that
Without
word.
stickers.
What was that?
DOS.
DOS. No, 1 2 3 क्या था? Lotus. Lotus 1 2 3. 20 minutes, and last 10 minutes we used to get to play Pac-Man. So that was something that we used to look forward for, right? That's. Yeah. So we studied Pascal at engineering. We studied. So the most modern language we studied in engineering was C++. Yeah, Fortran also. Correct. COBOL is something that we study. And today you talk to them about studying, they won't even want to learn any languages today.
And with generative AI coming in, coding is anyway going to be history.
That's what I said. The co-pilots and stuff today, you just have to give the right prompt. You have to be intelligent. So that's where I think the shift is from creating technology. It is now changing towards using technology. You have to be smart enough to use technology rather than create new technology.
I slightly disagree. And still, there will be some room for some engineers to create Copilot, to create those parts of it. I cannot answer this question directly.
AI plus comes in.
Cannot answer this question directly.
So innovation is a leg in the human race. It will never go away. Yeah, so that will stay. But what I'm trying to say is that the effort is going to be more towards. So tomorrow, and you are into recruiting, so you would see the way the JDs have changed from what if you were to compare a JD for a technology that came in today from what came possibly 5 to 7 years back. I'm sure there has been a change in it.
Even the way we talk about JDs has changed. We call it
Absolutely.
In fact, even the business functions JD, if you see, has a lot of IT mixed in it. So even if you want now a marketing manager or a sales or a finance clerk, it cannot be just independent of it. It is a complete package who understands the.
So I analyze this part. So about looking at some of the jobs on LinkedIn, 72% of the jobs in LinkedIn requires data, digital, machine learning, or artificial intelligence. Any job.
No, so earlier they used to ask how many technologies you know, and when they ask what they meant was how many have you worked hands-on with and delivered. And today they want to understand how have you delivered and driven those technologies. They're not necessarily looking at you to know that technology inside out, but then they definitely want you to be able to appreciate and understand how that technology applies to solve a business problem.
Have you delivered it?
Yeah, it is more application oriented than it was, but now it is more application oriented than it used to be.
So sometime back you asked where Gen AI can be used. Gen AI is now being used to write good CVs, because on the other side, when bots are looking at your CVs, if you write a normal human written CV, you get rejected. But when Gen AI writes a CV, you have at least the chance that the first filter will go through and
it picks up all the keywords.
Yeah. So when the human
the back end is only looking at those keywords.
You have a question about addiction, right? Which probably didn't get answered. So my take on that, here is a part where we have to lead by our own actions as parents. A lot of parenting comes into picture, because you can't tell a kid not to look at a device when you are looking at a device at home all the time. So somewhere that distinction has to come in. We ourselves have to adopt that. There is a family time. There is a time spent in human relationship, not only on WhatsApp and all, meeting friends. Because if that's not happening in your own family, kids will never know. I mean, your brothers are not coming home, your families are not coming home. They feel everything happens on that device. So it's a lot to do with parenting. I know I'm kind of touching and hurting everybody in this room, but we will have to think a lot on that.
I can totally relate to that because I definitely the addiction part of it. Definitely, I saw some part of it in my kids and all. But I was always saying that if you learn Python quickly, that will uh, destroy your career. If you learn Java first, that will destroy your career. Focus on C++. My daughter just got a job in Google. She just joined Google recently. So definitely, there has to be. We agree.
Great. I think on that note, thanks, Dhaval. Thanks, Mukesh. Thanks, everyone, for participating. Any open questions, though?
Okay. We talked about ROI, we talked about data, we talked about ROI, we talked about data sharing. Whenever we have interacted with CIOs, what we have also seen is that one is, like Dhaval rightly pointed out, people is the most crucial part. But are there any initiatives taken by the CIOs, to talk to the guys on the field, for example? Because many a times we have seen there's a lot of gap existing. The reporting mechanisms are always to the immediate reporting manager, and the data is getting lost somewhere, right? So we may have legacy systems, data, lots of data there, new AI, data generated on an ongoing basis, and many data not even being captured, right? So what are the initiatives being taken by CIOs and CTOs to solve this problem?
Sure, I can give you this answer. So as I told you, I launched a program called Millennial Garage. That was one part. Second, I copied something from Modi ji. It was a Chai Pe Charcha. So I changed it to Chat Pe Charcha. So taking out some people without their managers, 20 people for samosas, vada pav and all that always worked. And the last part, as part of people analytics, right, we're giving them option for them to put some ideas. So Monday is the day which is called Ideathon. 12 to 1, every day it's Ideathon. People can come, optional meeting. People can come and join and give some ideas. So those have generated a lot of ideas. And if some idea is good, and people say, wait a minute, you have generated the idea, now you be part of the team and build it. I'll give you the resources unlimited. I'll give you whatever is required. But you have to build it. I'll give you coaching also. Rather than just giving, hey, we should solve world hunger and then going out of it. No. You have to be part of the system and all. We generated 242 solutions last year just by doing this and allowing people to do it. And there are people who are working full time on the client project. They say, I want to do some innovation. Come, over and above your job, do this 2 hours extra per week, 3 hours extra per week. And they're able to get those. I think those are generating good ideas and everything and getting something built. And if any of the solution gets sold to the client, they get additional incentive in their other thing. Some people got 5 lakh rupees in their account recently because it was sold to the client and we got make good money out of it. Like that. I think that is actually circulating. Once people start getting money, they also realize, okay, do innovation, they're getting the skill, but also getting some money out of it. So those are something we have done it at Capgemini.
While this may be a session like Monday's idea session, but there are many times when you go on the field and you get a lot of inputs from the customers, or if you're facing a problem about the way you do your job. Okay, is there any mechanism which is given to people to enable them to be given that feedback on an ongoing basis without waiting for that session to happen?
No, that is standard system, right? We have Ask Adam's system is there. People can come and give feedback, and then depending on the feedback category, automatically it get routed. The system is already there, but Ideathon's purpose is come and discuss something. Come up with something, discuss, open discussion and all. Initially, we had 30, 40 people attending. Nowadays, we have 400 people attending. But people will apply that I want to share my idea. And they will be in queue, and then we'll take 4 ideas, 6 ideas in a day, and then we'll continue to do the backlog.
There are some team engagement options, mostly for digital adoption. No? So a lot of companies utilize this adoption tools also, so that the end-to-end people, because obviously touching every niche and corner of the country and world may not be that easy. So these lot of tools they utilize from a purpose of engaging these entire teams, where you can contribute, where every day you have sessions, you have interactions. You can contribute your ideas, you can pick which is the best ideas types, you can create submit your problems, and then you can pick up these are the problems, and you have sessions every week to say these were the 5 top problems and this is the solution, so that you can pick some names in different locations and different ways of team engagement. Even softwares are there to deal with this.
So if I understood your question, and I can tell you my experience. So when I was in consulting, I delivered a lot on the consumer and the customer side of things. My specialization was around customer technology. And one thing that we found very useful was design thinking. What it basically means is that you live the life of the person that you are solving the problem for. So it means, for example, if you're solving it for the sales staff, you travel with them in their territories for 3 days, right? Understand that, for example, very simple things like e-brochures. Where did they come from? Because the guy had to carry a huge sack with him with full catalog of, and especially for say industrial automation, books, they are like Bibles, right? If you have to, it, because it has the specifications, it has the operational manual. So it turns out to be a very big piece of paper. So you travel with him, and he travels in tier 2, tier 3 cities in an ST bus. Sometimes on the top of the bus, he has to sit to get to where he has to get to. He has to travel through local trains. So 1 week or 3 days, you identify, pick the most complex, most complex. So we identified there were different parameters. One was the highest revenue generating territory. One was, for example, the most complicated customer. You go with that person and you just be a silent observer. Do nothing else. Just go with him, understand how he approaches his job. That's where a lot of engagement insights come in as to what will, if we given to that particular salesperson, help him have a better conversation with the customer. You understand how the conversation is going, at what point the customer gets put off, at, firstly getting an appointment is an issue. So can you solve for that problem? Then he'll give you an elevator pitch. Okay, in 30 seconds or 90 seconds, what is it that he needs to speak about? So basically, it's all empathy driven. If you look at the principle of design thinking, it talks about what he thinks, what he feels, what he does, what he says. These are the 4 principles. You apply these principles to, and the same applies to manufacturing shop floor also. You want to give him the most sophisticated gizmos and gadgets, whereas he wants a very simple problem to be solved, which will possibly take care of 90% of the issues and the noise that he has. That's where technology being purpose built becomes very, very important. So you don't put Gen AI, you don't go with a mindset to say यहाँ पे Gen AI लगाना है. Identify what will work best. If it is just giving him a terminal with an Excel that will solve the problem for, do that.
So I agree with him, and especially manufacturing. We never designed a solution sitting in the glass house. Like, what I mean to say, not sitting in the IT. Used to be in the shop floor, looking at how things are happening and working with those guys to develop. So that's the way adaptability becomes faster. You have to change a lot of things because when you be on the ground, as rightly said, you would know what will work and what will not. Sometimes you have to convince them, sometimes they convince you. Sometimes it's a good technical debate. Being from manufacturing, a lot of argument happens, but finally we find.
But never force technology. That is the most important thing, because we were working for a primary metals company, and the solution being thought of was providing tabs to the person. Then we actually went to the shop floor. It was a furnace that works at 2200 degrees centigrade. He is wearing protective equipment all along just to ensure there is not a drop of molten metal that falls on him. You are expecting him to handle a tab at that point in time. It doesn't work that way.
So, just to add to this question, it's not only about enabling him, or the more the idea and the focus is to get that enabling him to get that. Sorry about this. The idea was to one is train him to how to get more information from the customer and the people also he's dealing with. And then, because the amount of data which has been created, just imagine if you have 10,000 people out there on the field, all of them coming back with ideas and sharing with you. There's too much information to handle, right? So one, you have consumer data, one is now data from the sales team. Now getting and using this data again becomes a huge challenge, right? And therefore your strategy around how do you share data with them to enable them to give you back information or maybe impact the ROI. So that's again a...
So we are out of time, but very quickly. So we were doing an exercise for a consumer durables major. Okay. And this was again a feet on street or a showroom engagement kind of a thing. Where people are talking about giant screens for engagement and product displays and running movies and stuff. So all that they were talking about, multi-million-dollar investment karna hai, karenge. And what's the failure point? The person who's selling there, he's not equipped with the best information to be able to convince the customer about the value prop of that product. It was a premium product. So it commanded, it wasn't a cost game. It was a premium game. Said, अच्छा उसको train क्यों नहीं करते? यार वो 3 महीने में छोड़ के चला जाएगा. उसको train करने का मतलब नहीं है. Okay, then you're solving for the wrong problem. That's where we said, okay, you turn it around and you change that huge display from a self-help to a self-help kiosk, where a customer can come in and engage with the kiosk, and you're basically trying to somewhere negate that risk of the salesperson who he's still there for whatever additional information required. But his level of literacy required to speak with customers is come down drastically, because you now have a self-help kiosk where the customer can browse through, get most information that he needs, do comparisons and stuff. drastic change in engagement level.
Or the extreme end is what you find in Apple stores. Those guys never leave because they've been paid that much. And trained as well. Yeah, trained as well.
Okay, just in interest of time, I just first of all quickly wanted to thank the thought leaders of India for having such an engaging session, and thanks to Dhaval, Mukesh, and Aarti for very insightful discussion. So I think I just have a couple of observations and some key takeaways which I have from this. So first of all, I completely agree with the point which you mentioned that the digital literacy is something which is very important, because all the organization have a very heterogeneous population from Gen X to millennials to predominantly now the Gen Zs of that. But the obviously the awareness pattern varies a lot. So the way we used to have something called as finance for non-finances, so I think there is definitely a need to have a digital for non-digitals as well. So that should become something awareness program as a mandate in every organization. And I think many of us, when we are working in an organization, we forget the value of how are we contributing towards the digitalization of whatever systems and the processes, because generally the tendency or the perception is that digitalization मतलब वो कुछ IT में कुछ काम चल रहा है, so something related to IT is what we feel, whereas we forget that digitalization happens at the marketing also, digitalization happens at the finance, at the manufacturing, so everyone end of the day it should be. So I think as an organization there is definite need of integrating all the functions together in order to show one purpose, and that purpose which I mentioned is the customer experience. So if we make the employees understand that everyone is contributing towards that, then the involvement and engagement of every employee would scale up to next level. So that's one thing, and especially it would enhance, because many a times he also coming from the marketing background, we have seen there are a lot of silos between the functions, that a lot of processes and tools do not speak to each other, like data which the marketing uses vis-a-vis the data what sales uses. Many a times there is a lot of gap in that. So end of the day we are really not making sense of what we are utilizing, whereas it's a top to down kaha gaya hai, to matlab you have to do it, something like that. So there's a lot of scope still which we all can work together in order to integrate, and that is the reason which Dhaval mentioned that having a comprehensive digital strategy encompassing all the functions is very important and key when we start the roadmap for the digital journey of any company. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I think as Charles Dickens said, it's the best of the times, it's the worst of the times. So we have to pick. Thank you guys. Thanks everyone.
No, it's a really, really very useful session, I would say, because for a non-tech guy, it's really very useful, because we face these kind of problems, and I can relate a lot of this discussion which is happening in my organization. I am leading the technology initiative from a business side. I am not a tech guy, but I deal with a lot of vendors and internal CTDO teams, etc. So very, very useful. Now I know that some of the words I can use when I am talking to my leadership. Okay. So thanks, Mukesh. One question for you, because you touched upon a very important point of learnings, at different level. So what are the, for people like us, and every morning when I wake up, I think that whether I am working for a consulting company or a tech company. And I think days are not very far that we will be known as a technology company rather than a consulting company, because that is the future. So what are the key areas which we non-tech guys in the leadership role should learn to make the right digital leadership in the organization, not for only CXOs, but for even the team below? So any thought on that?
It's a tough one because there is no silver bullet to it, unfortunately, but it will be a lot of self-learning is what I can say. One thing that I have seen working with leaders, and I've personally not done it, so I'm not sure, but if you invest in a course with a good institute, and for example, I knew one of my ex-bosses had done a design thinking course from Wharton, and one of the other ones had done a digital leadership course from Sloan School. And they claimed that it completely changed their perspective and appreciation for technology. My personal belief, and maybe because I'm a technology person, it comes a little more naturally to me, is self-learning in technology. I'm in my domain I'm talking about, right? And Suhas would agree that we have this community of CIOs, and it's a wealth of experience. So if you read this book called The Mackenzie Way by Ethan Russell, it says that never try to solve a problem because someone somewhere has always solved it. It's always focus your energy on identifying who solved that problem rather than trying to solve that problem. So I think being in a good network definitely helps. It can be a rich learning experience if you're trying to, for example, put some technology or contemplating some technology in your organization. You can always reach out to the community to say that has someone worked in this technology and what is their experience been, or we worked with a particular vendor, whatever their experience been. Do you, for example, recommend investing in this technology or not? Is it showing any benefits or not? So these are some 2-3 things that from my personal opinion I can tell you. And then there are people doing digital leadership programs, so that
I'll give you a shortcut there. So digital leadership program, it's okay. We can go some program. Whichever is your favorite application on your mobile phone, ask a question to yourself: how things work. Why did I get recommendation on Amazon? Why Netflix is showing me this recommendation? Why this is happening? Why I am getting this SMS and everything? How Google Map work? How does Google Map know how much? You ask asking your question. You go to ChatGPT, you go to Google and ask. I get answer. I can tell you 80% of the knowledge you will get it in 2 months. Just looking at around and then just asking the question how, why, kaiku, right? Why it worked, how it worked like that. And then you will be curious, you'll get curiosity for free on top of it. Okay, and then a problem comes, okay, maybe this problem is similar to that, maybe because as Dhaval very well said, right, most of the problem are already solved, right? So trying to say, okay, maybe we can solve it in this way. Maybe that's how I normally, when I'm doing executive coaching, I focus on this part. That the curiosity building will be long-term value for you.
So generally in the KRA discussion, we tell our team members that go to Udemy, we have this sponsored online learning platforms that you do some course on like Gen AI or cloud or etc. So these are like one of the things which we are doing, but I don't think it is that helpful.
Shorter answer to you is call one of us will come and contact.
Yeah. No, I got the message. Thank you, Suhas.
Okay, thank you so much everyone for joining us today. It was indeed an insightful session and a good learning, laugh with laughter, and so much of experiences shared on a table.